I have a 4-year degree in Jesus stuff from a conservative university, and I came out a progressive post-liberal. Here's some of the things me and my conservative classmates learned.
Hello, this is Tim.
Hey, I'm Martin.
Today we're looking at another TikTok theologian explaining to us the Christian faith. I'm ready for this.
This lady studied Jesus stuff for 4 years. That's quite impressive.
Yeah, I'm shivering. Let's get into this.
There are 2 creation stories in Genesis. They conflict with each other, and they were written by 2 different groups of people at completely different times in history with different political motivations.
Wow, this is unbelievable. I never knew.
Well, she's wrong. Genesis chapter 1 and 2 explain different perspectives of the same creation story.
But isn't that a contradiction?
Not at all. The idea that the first 2 chapters of Genesis were written by different peoples at different times is a pure hypothesis. It is a theory. Theologians in the late 19th century came up with the idea that both chapters were written at different times. They thought so because they believed to have found grammatical differences between the 2 texts. However, it is quite amazing that Christianity needed almost 2 millennia to find that out.
Does their theory make more sense than the traditional view, though?
Not even a bit. They portray a so-called documentary hypothesis, in which they try to explain the evolvement of the 5 books of Moses based on linguistic reinterpretation. There is no consent between these scholars as well. One disagrees with the other, and since the 1970s, they've been fighting over different possible sources, and some scholars come up with even more confusing trees.
Oh well.
Yeah, but as someone with a degree in Jesus stuff, she should know that.
None of the Old Testament was written by Moses.
Oh no, Christianity is debunked.
No.
Oh, how so?
Christianity is not built on the premise that Moses wrote every word of the 5 books himself. The last book describes his death, so it would be silly to claim that Moses wrote about it.
True, but how do we know that Moses wrote the books?
Well, we don't. And that's the answer. We simply don't know. Nobody claims that Moses wrote every single part of the law or the history of the 5 books. However, to say that Moses did not write any of them is a claim that has to be backed up by sources.
Where are the sources?
That's it. There are none. It's a simple hypothesis, like the idea that there are many sources of the creation account. No one knows for sure who wrote it because nobody is here who witnessed it. But as the lady in the car should know as a former student of Jesus stuff, the Christian belief says that the Holy Spirit inspired the authors of all the books of the Bible. Therefore, it doesn't contradict any of God's revelations. And to say that Moses did not write the Bible is scientifically as conclusive as the claim that Moses wrote the Pentateuch. It's a question of belief.
Lots of the stories in the Bible coincide perfectly with ancient creation myths from other civilizations.
Wow, is she right on that?
Yes, she is.
So the creation account was copied from ancient sources.
No, these stories were written long after Genesis. They either used the Israelitic creation account as their blueprints or came up with mythology as all other peoples did.
You have to prove that to us.
The Babylonian creation myth called Enuma Elish talks about creation in 7 days, the separation of waters and the earth, for example. This can be also found in Genesis. However, the Babylonian story was written around 1100 before Christ in the Akkadian language. The Genesis account is about 300 years older, and therefore the original story, which may have landed to the Babylonians when the Israelites came to power in the region. A very important difference between the text is in the creation of the world itself. While Genesis explains that the world was created by God in an act of his divine will, out of nothing, the Babylonian myth speaks about a sea goddess who got killed and her body was split into 2 halves. The top half became the sky, the bottom half became the earth. Her tears of pain became the rivers Euphrates and Tigris.
So, according to Genesis, the world was created out of love, but the Babylonians thought it was created through violence?
Exactly.
Old Testament are allegory. Think like Lord of the Rings or The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
So the Bible is fiction?
Nothing could be further from the truth. Books like Lord of the Rings are written fiction. They were written for entertainment and people enjoy them as such. To say this about the Bible is a ridiculous claim. The books of Kings and Chronicles are purely historical, documenting the kings of Israel and Judah and their actions. The people of Israel knew exactly that the Old Testament had a divine origin because they put all their trust and all their hopes in these texts. Nobody believes that Lord of the Rings is a historical account. because the author, J.R. Tolkien, made it absolutely clear that it is just a story.
Oh,
But do you know what he believed to be true?
what?
The Bible. Tolkien was a devout Catholic.
Well, thank you for explaining, Tim.
No worries, it was a pleasure. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get more information on Catholic apologetics. Don't let these TikTok theologians confuse you.
God bless.